All right, people of more, I'm coming to you, and I'm going to cover a lot of things in a short amount of time, mainly because it's cold out here. I got cold. But I had to step out. I'm visiting the family for 2 days, and it's kind of crazy in there. But a couple things for you here as you enter the weekend and as we close out 2023. First and foremost, just a couple quick announcements before I hit the main thing that I've kind of been holding off on addressing. So Seek, we're off Monday. So there's 50 students heading out. I'll be up there as well, heading to St. Louis for Seek. So pray for everybody as they're heading out to count on the Lord in a more particular way. So it'll be good. I'm sure there'll be 15, 20,000 college kids that are up there doing their thing. Super exciting. There'll also be St. Louis pizza, which I've come to enjoy as well. So we'll be up there doing that. So pray for them. Also, it's end of year, so if you hadn't had a chance to give an I Give Catholic, we always appreciate you supporting our ministry. Lots of great things going on at the University of South Carolina. I've been holding off on the letter about, one last thing, the Holy Day of Obligation. So the Holy Day of Obligation is not a Holy Day of Obligation this year. So January 1st for Mary, Mother of God, when it falls on a Monday, the obligatory nature of it is lifted. So just as a reminder for that, there'll be masses around Columbia. We won't have one as well. I'll be traveling up to Seek. So on the day itself, on Monday, we will not have a mass. It's still a solemnity, but it's not obligatory. Lots of masses around Columbia. As always, encourage you to go to mass. We'll have this weekend our 3 masses. So reminder, there's no, 5 or 9 p.m. mass this weekend. They'll come back the weekend after, so Sunday, January 7th. All right, so I've been holding off because the timing of the letter from the DDF, from the Dicastery on the Doctrine of the Faith, addressing different kinds of blessings. So I received a couple, not a lot of questions about it, but I wanted to just address it in general. There's a letter from the bishop, from our bishop, in the bulletin this weekend, if you haven't seen it, where he just briefly addresses it, basically saying nothing's changed, kind of business as usual. But just to be a little more specific, I wanted to add a couple things for you. So all of this came from a question. There are cardinals or bishops that will write what are called dubium, or if there's many of them, there'll be dubia. So they're questions that they'll send to the groups in Rome for clarification or for direction or whatever it may be. So in 2021, there was one that was written, and it was asking about, can we bless people in homosexual unions? And it was now, this letter now is clarifying, because there were more questions afterwards, so it's clarifying some that was addressed in 2021. So that's what prompted all this. Now, whether it should have been at Christmas or not, who knows? But that was the what was the impetus behind this. So first things first, it is very explicit and very specific throughout the document. So as you read the document, I forget how many pages it is, 40... not pages, 40-something pages, like it's 40-something paragraphs. So as you read through, here it is, 45 paragraphs. So it's 45 paragraphs. As you read through it, you'll see that it hammers right out at the beginning. Okay, man and woman, very specific. So we're not running anything there, classic teaching. And then 10 different times in the 45 paragraphs, it will very specifically come out and tell you about the nature of marriage. Like, this cannot and does not change what we know as the nature of marriage. So for example, out the gate, what constitutes marriage? It's the exclusive, stable, and indissoluble union between a man and a woman, naturally open to the generation of children. And what contradicts it, anything that contradicts it, is inadmissible. So those are the letters in English, depends on the language that you read it in, that he's talking about. And it goes on and on. The next one, he says, the church does not have the power to impart blessings on unions of persons of the same sex. And so it's peppered throughout, as I said, basically every 4 paragraphs, there's a reminder that everything that's said is in that context. Everything has to be read in that context. Throughout a lot of this, some of the final part is the wording. So the question at the end, it has to do with blessings of irregular marriages, which is divorced and remarried, or same-sex unions. So this is the other part. So that's the part that's the stickier situation. throughout of it, the wording throughout it is talking about one person, persons, and that's what comes up. And then in paragraph 38, for example, he says, the ordained minister could ask that the individuals have peace, health, spirit of patience, blah, 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 but also God's light and strength to be able to fulfill his will completely. And so throughout most of this, it's individuals, this, that, but there's a couple places in the title of the last paragraph where it says couples. And so that's the question of, okay, well, what does this look like? Throughout us, this is for ordained ministers, by the way, so it's not going to affect families or anything like that. And for us, at least in my priesthood, it's extremely rare. I've never had someone come up and ask, a same-sex couple or a divorced or remarried couple for a blessing, like after Mass or something. But all the time, like in my previous parish, for example, there would be, people who would come up before Mass and want a blessing, and then there would be people who would come up and want a blessing in the communion line. And then there'd be people who would come up right after that, before the final blessing, and there'd be blessings there of different things. And then there'd be the final blessing at Mass. And then after Mass, they would come up for a different blessing. And so it kind of cued me to the fact that we might not understand blessings and the power of blessings. And so I'd always ask people when they came up, okay, well, what are you asking the blessing for? And it's like, oh, well, I'm sick, or I'm traveling, or I'm having a hard time, or, any number of things. Okay, great. And then the priest can tailor the blessing and ask for what's needed. That's part of what we do. So in this case, what is the document telling us as we're looking around at all this? Well, we can never bless same-sex or quote-unquote irregular unions. Like the ordained minister can't do it. It's we don't have the power to. We can't bless something that's known as sin. So outside of that, what is it then can we do? So outside of liturgical blessings, outside of sacramental things, on spontaneous, so if someone comes up on informal, spontaneous, and asks for a blessing that does not have anything to do with blessing of a union, which is something we cannot do, again, in a non-liturgical, informal way, then the priest, or it says ordained minister, so the bishop, priest, or deacon, can ask God's blessings, if they're sick or they're traveling or whatever it may be, on the persons that are asking for it. So most of this document is really saying things that have already been said. So it's permitting something that was already permitted, but putting it in new and, as Pope Francis tends to do, challenging ways. So we have to think about, he's right, we can't just say, oh, we're going to minister to these people and not these people. But at the same time, we can't be blessing sinful things. And so we have to be able to reach out and address and be pastoral in the sense of bringing the truth in good and charitable ways to the people that we encounter. So as you have different conversations and discussions on this, always feel free to email, or there's some good bishops who have written good things out there, very clear and decisive, logical. So definitely feel free to read through and look out. There's a lot of good resources around. Again, our bishop put a short missive in to his priests, and we put it in the bulletin for this weekend. That's also, you can find it on the diocesan social media and on their webpage as well. So lots of things to consider, but this is not something that when 10 times in a very small document you hear it said, this does not do X, Y, and Z, whenever you read all the polemics and the things online and all the things in the news and blah, 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 saying it does the opposite, you should raise an eyebrow. But again, there could be wording that could be clearer, and that's why, even in there it says we leave this to the bishops and priests in their own places to be able to describe and use as needed. So that's what I'm here to do. So if you have any questions on this or anything that can be clarified for you, don't hesitate to reach out. I don't think I have anything else to say on that, but I figured this is the best venue to do it. I hope you all had a blessed and Merry Christmas, that it continues to be blessed and merry. As you know, we practice for a season, so it's not just one day. So look forward to seeing you at all the Masses this weekend. God bless.